It's the Way Forward broadcast. I'm your co-host, although I put host on there. I'm the co-host of the show. My name is Erskin, and so excited to join you guys today for another discussion about race. We do this every week, or what we would say ethnicity. And today's going to be a unique episode because we've got also in the show links and some of the other things, some positive stories. What? Is this really happening? Do Black lives really matter? Well, we're going to talk about that today. And we're going to talk about some positive things that are going on, some encouraging things. So if you're like, I got to get into a discussion and like beat some people up, this is not your broadcast. So you might as well go ahead and click off. But I want to welcome to the show the co-host, Jason. I don't have my sound effects today.
That's right. The dolphin. No, not the dolphin. Dolphin. Yeah, you should do that.
Try to make it happen.
Wait,
try to do the best we can.
Hey, do that again.
A little flipper action going on as we start today.
That's it. That's when we know we're truly diverse, right there.
Yes. When you can include flipper in what's going on.
That's it.
You're reaching back for some things as well.
That's good. That's good.
So how you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. Hanging in there, keeping on.
Okay, all right.
The temperature has dropped in Litchfield. We had this amazingly spring-esque couple of weeks where it's 60-some degrees and people are out in shorts, and now it's rainy, threatening snow, cold. It's bipolar. It's absolutely bipolar.
Boo.
Yeah, boo is right.
Well, we already have blooms coming out in Nashville, Tennessee, but as you can tell, I am not in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm actually up in Saginaw, Michigan. I'm going to be with Life Church tomorrow, and you'll be able to live stream that for those of you who any of their 57 million services tomorrow.
Yeah.
But that's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm up here in Saginaw, Michigan, and I was watching as we were driving here, it moved from the 60s to the 50s to the 40s. To the 30s by the time that we got here, and I thought, I did not pack a jacket for this. I thought that it was spring everywhere. If it's spring in Nashville, spring everywhere, but nope.
They don't play around in Michigan.
It is not spring everywhere.
Wisconsin, no. This is you're still due for one more blizzard, so that's possible.
Man,
yeah.
Say it ain't so. Sorry, we're ready to get into some of that spring weather and enjoy that.
Well, when you decide to do ministry in the Midwest, one of the hardest things churches have is to keep pastors below the Mason-Dixon line, below whatever line there is that separates the North and the South. They don't want anything to do with our winter because it just drags forever. Like it just when you think it's done, like that little 2-week kick of 60-degree weather, like no, that's just to mess with you a little bit. So the real kick comes in the end of March when we get 3 feet of snow and negative 60-degree weather. They're gone. They don't last 5 years.
Separating the men from the boys.
If you want to do ministry up here, you're going to have to. You just have to get a jacket.
You said the harvest is plenteous, but the laborers are few, huh?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Anybody want to go up to the Midwest and minister? We're good.
Hey, look, they'll give you all kinds of reasons, like I got grandchildren and I got to go back home and do all this.
Oh yeah.
We know it's the weather.
There's some kind of embarrassing stat that I've seen out there that is like 80%, 75 to 80% of ministers live within an hour of their wife's parents.
Yeah. I don't know how. I don't know how Homeland Black conscious is happening.
Well, see, you can pay your bill.
I don't know how the gospel is advanced in America. Mother-in-laws have to move if that's going to happen.
Maybe we should do a show on that.
Yeah,
all you mother-in-laws out there, you ready to move for the sake of the gospel?
You need to move to foreign countries and you need to move to poor neighborhoods so that we can get your children to move there to share the gospel.
Yeah, and I think that's a problem in the South because I think by and large, like especially in Texas, where I'm from, where we met each other, in Tennessee, it seems like there's a ton of churches. North Carolina, places like that, seems like there's a ton of churches. There's a church on every corner.
Yeah.
Well, go out west. How about New Mexico?
Yeah, New Mexico.
How about Utah?
Yeah.
How about Colorado?
Utah's a tough one.
How about Wyoming? How about you move to the Northwest and you start recognizing there aren't very many churches?
No.
There are not very many churches.
A lot of space.
And there's a lot of space out there. And then when you get a church, the people, the churches are different. I'll just say that.
Yeah. That's pioneer, David Brainerd-ish type mission work out there.
Which is kind of funny because we can do a whole episode talking about the church, but we chop it up because in the South, there's a lot of people who don't move down there if they're used to cold weather because we're going to bring that heat, baby. Bringing some fire.
Yeah.
In the summertime. So, each person should do the ministry that they're called to.
Yeah. But we can't be too hard on these brothers.
Got
to keep their head up. But we just got to encourage them to move. That's all.
I heard this week that we cannot talk about sports because you're not allowed to watch anything. What happened?
Yeah. Well, okay. So our family celebrates Lent, and every Lent we give up something, and it's usually something that hits. So like one year, we did sugar, and that's all sugar. That's everything. So the kids realized how
keto.
We didn't even know keto at that point. But here's the problem was the kids realized within 2 weeks how much sugar they eat because they're at school and all this.
Your kids are like twitching.
They're going through withdrawals. In the hospital. Like, what's going on? This year we gave up all media, like video, like YouTube, TV. Like we have no TV, no kind of Netflix, no kind of Amazon Prime, no Disney.
You gave up media?
Gave up media except for education and work because my kids are.
That clarification.
Yeah. My kids are also do homeschool this year, and so they have a lot of online stuff they have to dig into, and then of course for work I have just different things I have to deal with. But otherwise, as far as recreational videos go, like YouTube, movies, that kind of stuff, no, we're not doing it. That includes watching basketball or spring training baseball. So
it hits. That hits.
Yeah.
You struck a nerve
the Cubs
now.
are on right now. The Cubs are on, and he got killed by the Brewers yesterday. But yesterday I found myself working out. I was on the elliptical, and it's not my TV. I have to keep my head down as I'm trying to honor my Lent, and I can and can't. And I just happened to catch that Baylor was not getting it handed to him, but definitely being overpowered in the last couple of minutes of the OK State game. Because I think we had a prophecy on here that Baylor and Illinois were going to go to the championship, and Illinois is looking like it. Baylor, I don't know. That young man.
Folks in Texas are going to be upset with me. That's the kiss of death right there. Once I predict a team is going to win the championship or a president is going to win an election, you're done.
Yeah. So
the Republicans are like, stay away from predicting elections.
That's right.
I'm sure I'll get a message from Ted Cruz any day now.
That's
can you not predict any Republican victories anymore?
Yeah.
We seem to not do so well when that happens.
No. So yeah, I'm kind of hands off of that until Easter. But I get stats. I can still look up, baseball.
And this is clearly educational because what people have learned thus far from watching us is that we know a lot about nothing.
That's right. We are masters of the everything of nothing. So it's good.
Yeah, the art of. And so I don't know, Jason, sing us a song or something. This is feeling foreign to me. I need to dial up some sound effects or something.
You need to get Justin at the side, just like make sounds for you. Dude, we can involve our kids in the show. My kids will do it. Abigail will do it. She'll jump in here and make some kind of sound.
The kids are on assignment right now, and they're having fun.
Good.
And they're not having fun in here where it's loud. And so we're gonna let that lie right there, and we're gonna do our show.
All right.
And enjoy ourselves today. We're going to jump into a topic today where we're essentially talking about race, which we do every week. That's no surprise. Come on, here you go, Jason and Erskin. But we're going to talk about some positive stories that are out there and some things you probably, because it's hard for us to find, you probably haven't found or heard these stories. And Jason, you and I, we probably talked about 3 hours yesterday all together with meetings that we had and different things that we were talking about, ministry, show planning. So we've been talking a lot about this. We've been researching, and you came up with a grand discovery that I think we ought to start this show out by talking about, and that is what?
This is the funniest. It's not funny. Actually, it's not funny at all. It's the media controls the narrative, and I think we'd all agree with that, right? Whether it's Fox News, CNN, or those guys, the media controls the narrative because they control the communication. They control the message that goes out. They tell you what they want you to hear. And so what I'm finding, on the one hand, they are pushing this Black Lives Matter message, and they're pushing, the social change and stuff like that. Okay, that's good. But then when I go to find positive stories that show honorable young minority men and women, African-American, Asian, Hispanic, whatever, it is almost impossible. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. And I'm sitting there saying, well, wait a minute. Why are you pushing out there that Black Lives Matter? And yet we can't seem to find very many stories of these young Black men doing good things, these young Asian men doing good things, or these young Black women doing good things. Whatever the deal is, you've got to go dig. And then on top of that, you got to be willing to go back several years to find them. And so I'm saying, I'm just kind of calling it out like that's BS. Sorry if that's appropriate, but
I would put that in the show notes today. That's BS. But if somehow we got spliced or somebody tried to kind of like clip ninja us and like make us say what we didn't say, that might not turn out for you. So, Pastor Jason.
Yeah. Pastor Jason.
That's not good. That's the translation of that for all the children that may be watching this today. You know, I have a growing children's audience. I don't know if you knew that, Jason.
I did not know that. Thank you.
Yes, I'm becoming popular among the kids, and so it's making me a little nervous today because I usually keep my censorship button next to me.
Yeah,
and sorry. I can press that button and not feel like parents are getting upset with me. But no, that is. I experienced the same thing as I was doing research. I had to go back several years to be able to find stories. And so I'm thinking at this, like, why are stories not being posted? A lot of things that we're going to talk about today, they're not being discussed. They're not being talked about. I mean, no, a positive story about race and ethnicity, that does not overcome some of the situations that we faced, and it does not erase. That's not anything that we're trying to say. But we're trying to say that there's more things that are happening than get reported. And there seems to be a bias toward give us the worst story, give us the ugliest stories, give us the things where Black people are shooting cops are shooting Black people. We want to just keep this fury, the fire. We want to keep it going. And, like you said, that ain't right. That ain't right.
There's a consequence to pushing out a narrative that doesn't, when you never show honorable Black men or Hispanic men or whatever, right? There's a consequence to this because Lori Hutcherson, she does this website, positive.news, and it's really a website dedicated to positive stories about African Americans and minorities. Actually, if you look at her website, there's all kinds of people on here. But one of the things she said, why she started the website, is she said people of color are often seen as threats or exceptions, but not commonly enough as typical human beings. And I read that and I thought that is exactly the consequence of what happens when the media constantly pushes forward this message of African American men who are violent, African American men who are have no character, have no morals, have no values or whatever. And all of a sudden, you find a story when it's contradicting that message, like, wow, what, are you kidding me? They're people. And I thought her comment was dead on. I thought that is insightful and dead on. So
it harkens back to an incident that I had, and I will call it an incident because it was just ridiculous. I was contacted by the Baptist Press, Baptist Standard, whatever that organization is that writes journal articles. And I had done some work for them a couple of weeks earlier. But when all this racial tension was flaring up in our country, they came out with that. I don't know if you remember that, like, whiteout day that they were going to do, or blackout day. I don't remember what that was. That everybody was going to do, and it was started by some people in the music industry, the secular music industry, and we're just going to black out or white out our Facebook, and that's going to be our symbol of solidarity. We're standing with the black people. And so the Baptist Standard, Baptist Press, whoever it was, they contacted me and they said, hey, we're running a piece on this. We know that you're an article. Are you behind this? Are you in support of this? And I'm like, where's my censorship button? Hell to the no, I'm not in support of this. I said, that's the most hypocritical thing that I think I've actually heard. And I can't believe they're a reputable source. And so I believe that this is actually happening. But if there's people who are out there in the music industry who are calling for this national show of solidarity, the music industry are some of the main people who should be flogged, tarred, and feathered as a result of the fact that the image and the music and the way that they've portrayed black people in music in our country has perpetuated this idea that black people are animals, that we're sex fiends, that we're cop killers, that you just keep going. And I'm like, I cannot support this movement because it is nonsense to me. If anything, the people in the music industry, if they want to show some solidarity for black people, they better get up in some communities and start giving some money, start apologizing for what it is they've done, start changing their messaging, start changing their imagery. If they're not willing to do that, then they're hypocrites, and I want to have nothing to do with it. The Baptist Standard called me back an hour later and said, you know what? The movement is falling apart, and they just can't get enough support for it, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen. And I said, here's the problem, Baptists. They can't signal any virtue because they don't have any virtue. You have to be honorable people pointing in some direction of something honorable and be known as such to virtue signal. That's why they couldn't do it. Anyway, I don't think I have an opinion about that, so I'll just give the show over to you at this point.
Yeah, I think you were doing just fine.
Sorry, I still get worked up. That's why I call it an incident.
We talked about this yesterday. There are things that, should I say, you were privileged to say that I'm not
privileged, black privilege. Let's put that on the show.
that I am not able to say where it won't be received well, and so I hand that over to you and let you take it. But I've always had a bit of a problem with it. I've never paid attention to it until you and I began to walk this road a little more clearly and hand in hand, where you and I said, let's start asking questions and start looking at this. And so as you and I have grown together to have a different set of eyes looking at our culture, looking at these issues, I began to, on my own, just kind of, as I'm doing research, as I'm looking for different things, start to realize this is why you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. This is why you just can't say this whole idea of Black Lives Matter is just a whole bunch of trash. You just toss it all out. Well, no, I think you need to start looking at some of the issues they're raising. And one of the issues is the media is portraying African Americans, I would even say Hispanics, and Asians, but I don't know if I've seen the Asian as much, except for lately when there's been a lot of violence towards them, and I'm not quite putting my finger on that yet. I'm trying to figure that out.
It's the coronavirus.
Yeah, I'm still
coronavirus backlash.
Yeah. So, okay, yeah. So that makes sense. But I'm starting to see this idea that the media puts out there, and I don't know if they're trying to just keep the fire stoked, the hate stoked, or if they actually feel this way about people. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you actually feel this way towards these human beings, or are you just stirring up strife? Which is
I feel like we should invite Oprah on our show. You think she'd come?
We might have to have a few censor buttons
We'll have to censor the comment section.
And I would think that would be on both sides. I'm not so sure she would, keep it tame for us either. So, but I do see this problem.
Don Lemon?
Oh man, well, he lit into Tim Scott, didn't he? Did you see it? Man. He lit into Tim Scott.
Oh boy.
I like Tim Scott. I mean, he just keeps bringing it, and the more he talks, the more I like to listen. So,
how about Trevor Noah? Can we get Trevor Noah to come on the show?
Yeah.
Do you know him?
So Trevor Noah, he's somebody I have a love-hate relationship with, because I think he's extremely witty and clever and funny, and he's got that cool accent, So I'm like, all that's working for him.
And he does some great Donald Trump impersonations.
He does. And he's able to take satire, is able to take this kind of comedy and talk about things, but then he just goes off in these weird other really progressive tangents, and you're like, no, wait a minute, you kind of had me for a second, and then you went nuts. I'm like, come on, man, like surely you're brighter than that, because he's a bright man. Like, he's bright, he's smart.
Yeah, what is he doing? Like the Golden Globe or like?
Yeah.
Is that at the bottom now? Yeah.
Anybody who could take the content he's having to deal with, like all these crazy issues, and really find humor to use it on a platform, I think those people are genius. Yeah. It's not just about coming to blows. So I have this love-hate relationship with Trevor Noah. I'm like,
yeah, man, I agree with about 10% of what he actually says.
Yeah.
But my support and appreciation for the fact that he's taking on the issues, my respect level is high for him.
Yeah.
I know he's got kind of an echo chamber to some extent, but if I can disagree with you and I'm still laughing, you got something going on.
Yeah. Jon Stewart was a lot like that. Jon Stewart was hilarious. I just think it wore him out. I mean, I heard him talk about it, and you can only laugh so much before the issues become really personal.
Right.
I think that's where he hit. But anywho, I think this issue of the Bible talks about honoring honorable men, and the Bible talks about putting these men forward as examples. And I would say one of the issues that our culture has to deal with, our media in particular has to deal with, is putting honorable minority men and women up front and saying, hey, look, these are some bright, caring, value-centered men and women who are doing great things for the community, and not just the whole progressive mantra either. Like, we're gonna spin this to make it look this way. No, I think there are actually everyday stories out there of really cool people doing cool things. And I got one that I keep in my bank, because I'm so impressed with these two men that if I ever got a chance to meet them, I would just love to sit down with them. And we talked about this a little bit a while ago, and that's Philip Banks and I'm gonna butcher this guy's name. Deon Targo.
Well, before we talk about that, I just want to make a note. I don't know if I said this or not, but the comment section is turned on. And the reason why I'm saying that is I think I'm getting text messages in reference to what it is that we're talking about. They're texting me on my phone.
Yeah.
Instead of writing the comments on the show.
Yeah. Hey, but that's par for the course, right? Because you get all the feedback and I get crickets.
Yes. The police officers on our Defund the Police episode last week were really excited about the fact that I told them that they need to sleep more.
Yeah.
And invest in some personal health.
Yeah.
And that obviously wasn't the tenor of the whole show, but there was maybe the assumption that we didn't know very much about policing in America to be having the show that we had. And so I had to maybe type in a few of my credentials. I may have had an interaction or two with the police that may inform some of what we talked about last week, and not try to be a jerk about it, because we do love, listen to this, every single word. We love and support the police. We are for the police. Blue lives, black lives, all of that stuff matters. Come on, give some love to the police. I got former students who are police officers, and I got people in my family who are police officers. And so, man, don't hate, appreciate. Now talk about your story.
All right.
Since the comment section is turned on, you comment on here, not on my phone.
The Washington Post in July.
Washington Post.
July 9th of 2020. So this is in the midst of COVID. There was a fire, and it was in it was a building in Phoenix, and this Philip Banks is a retired U.S. Marine, 28-year-old. He's almost 30. He's at a friend's apartment. He noticed that the apartment was on fire, top floor, and so he looks up and he starts to run toward the building, right? And he sees this petrified woman on the 3rd floor holding this baby, and out of nowhere, she just starts throwing her kids down, right? And this dude takes off in a sprint and dives and catches this kid. And he says, when he asked about it, he said, I immediately got tunnel vision of the baby and somehow managed to catch him. And of course, this guy's an athlete, right? I mean, he played football in high school. He was a Marine. And so that just kicked in, and he goes after and catches this baby and kind of blankets him in his arms and then gets him away from the building. Well, then
DeAndre Hopkins the baby.
Huh?
He DeAndre Hopkins the baby.
Yeah. I mean, it is phenomenal, right? And then this other gentleman sees the building and realizes there's other kids in the building, and it's Erskin Alexander. He's a 42-year-old guy who works as a barber who's close by, and he runs into the building and goes and grabs this 8-year-old and gets the 8-year-old out while he takes on some burns himself, and then the mother unfortunately passes away. She goes back in to find her kids and doesn't come out. But these two men, I mean, you want to talk about honorable, you want to talk about high character, you want to talk about value, you want to talk about loving your neighbor, you want to talk about men that I want my kids to be around. These are the men. These are the men right here. I mean, that you run into a burning building to save a life, and I can't tell, but I think the lady was either Caucasian or maybe Hispanic. It didn't matter at that moment. It didn't matter. All that mattered was those men, those African-American men, they saw children perishing and they did something about it.
You know what? I'm going to have to, that is such an awesome story. I remember you shared that story with me the first time. Against all of my convictions here, I'm trying to prop up my computer here, and I'm just going to have to replace this book here with the Book of Mormon. Because, you have those in hotels. I got the Gideons. The Gideons are supporting me here with the Book of Mormon, because I got to get some sound effects going up in this thing, because that was awesome.
Yeah. You can check out the story in the Washington Post, July 9th, 2020. I don't know if we can get the link on our notes, but I am constantly, Erskin can probably testify to this, but I search different news articles. I always send him all kinds of crazy stuff. And I came across this and immediately like, boom, you got to check this out, man. This was cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Get some fireworks on that one.
That was good. That was I just felt like 4th of July. It was good.
Yeah, we gotta do the best that we can. But where media, where was this story at?
Dude, if you want to talk about a feel good, prop it up, put it out there for the nation to see. I mean, the Washington Post did put it out there, right? That's good. That's a big time news outlet. But where was Fox?
Where you at, Fox?
Where was Fox? Where was Don Lemon?
Don Lemon.
Bonnie,
where you at?
Man. This was a story that really should have went national.
Where's that girl Oprah?
Yeah. She should have these guys on her show, that kind of stuff. This is prime time, man.
Let's promote this good. Let's promote this.
Listen to us. I mean,
it's very unifying.
Yeah.
Here's
cool.
a phenomenon, and I'm going to have to share this with you. So I'll go back. This harkens to a lot of what it is that we've been talking about thus far. It's really hard to find stories, but I found a story. I had to go all the way back to 2015. Now, there are lots of stories before 2015, but I was particularly interested in this.
They're trying to cut you out, man. You talking. You there?
This thing better stream faster than this, because I paid for the premium high-speed internet up in this hotel.
Yeah.
Charging that on my card, suckers. Anyway, Ray Robikowski and a man by the name of Jacob Maklin. Now, Ray Robikowski was a police officer in Milwaukee. It's funny, the street that he was going down as they were showing the cameras is one of the streets that I go to when I go to my father's house in Milwaukee. And so it is in that 60-block district where there's a lot of vacancies and homes, and
it's a conspiracy. I'm telling you. This is why conspiracy.
That's the streets.
There we go.
Okay. And so Ray Robikowski is saying, I was a police officer doing my job. You know, I'm not a community service worker. I'm not working for the boys club. I'm, you know, interacting with criminals. So there's the intersection there between what we talked about last week with the not your prime job in the world to play patty cake with people. You got to actually address crime in our world and sin. So many times. Well, the story goes on to talk about the fact that Jacob Maklin comes to a turning point in his life. He begins to turn his life around, and he looks for help and support getting a job. One of the jobs that is offered to him because Ray Robikowski knows him. He gets him involved in this work program, gets him involved with jobs, and it shows by the end of it. I won't give it all away because you got to see the incredible transformation. Jacob Maklin is this hardcore drug dealer in Milwaukee who's been arrested a number of times. Life is going the wrong direction. They begin to interact with one another in a very positive manner. Ray gets him a job. His life further begins to turn around. He's an advocate for kids. He's helping people out now. And it shows this sort of the end of it and this relationship between them that they have. And he just, I mean, it is incredible. It almost brings you to tears watching Jacob Maklin, this former drug dealer, look at this police officer and say, I'm just so thankful. I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful that he was there, that he did some of the hard things that he did, and that he's, you know, helped me out in my life. And it is a touching story. If you get a chance to click on that YouTube link that's in our show notes today, it is a real story. But like you were saying, Jason, why we got to go back to 2015 to find that story?
Yeah.
I mean, I know there are more stories that are out there. And if you guys have stories, put those in the, well, no, I don't, probably shouldn't tell people to put those in the show note links because I don't know what kind of videos you guys be putting up in the thing. But yeah, reach out to us, point us in the right direction. If you know of a plethora of stories, but I want to imagine that you probably don't have a plethora of stories because they're hard to find. And
here's the other thing with that is, you know, honorable men are heroes like Philip Banks and these police officers, but honorable men are also guys who just who do the mundane, who work, take care of their family, take care of things, give back to their community. And I found the story, another New Jersey plumber.
You're taking it for a second, Jason, because I'm gonna plug this Ethernet in there because the internet, I'm not gonna say the name of the hotel, but they have not provided me with the level of service that I paid for. So we might have an issue here. I'm gonna pop off here for just a second. You keep running with the story. I'm gonna jerry rig some things because that's what I need to do now.
All right.
All right.
So like I was saying, honorable men are not just those who do the extraordinary hero things, but honorable men are also men who start to invest in their families, in their communities, in their churches, and they start to see a bigger picture of community. And one of the things I was impressed with was a New Jersey plumber drives 22 hours to help Texas storm victims. So you guys know a while back ago, Texas was hit with a crazy ice storm and knocked out all kinds of power and messed with people's pipes and things like that. And this guy named Andrew Mitchell, whose dream was to become a licensed plumber, became a reality. And he actually feels like his job is his calling. and he's got a wife and he's got children, and he's invested in that. And then he sees what happens in Texas, and he drives 22 hours to make a difference. And so here it's this African American man. He takes his wife, he takes his 2-year-old son, and they hop up in the truck and they head down to Texas to begin to help people deal with all the plumbing issues from the storm. And so what's neat about this is you have this man who, again, the media tends to portray African American men as I think Erskin said, like animals or inhumane or self-centered or thugs or something like that. And here the reality is, here's an example of a young man who sees an opportunity to go help people, and hopefully, God willing, I mean, he gets paid for his time and he's able to support his family. But he's a father, he's a husband, he's a worker, he's committed to doing the right thing and doing the honorable thing. And I think that is commendable. And I think those stories also need to be lifted into the story and into the narrative of this whole thing, because I think that's just one more piece of the picture that we get to see of the African American community. That there are solid men out there and solid women who are really about taking care of business and being honorable and whatnot. So I was just struck by that one. There is another one. This is kind of a neat thing. I had to go back to 2015 to find this story, but some of you are familiar with it. But Dominic Giamo, ABC was doing kind of a series on would random pedestrians help people in their time of need. And so Dominic Giamo was a young Hispanic man who came across a gentleman who had a tire that was flat and he had to change it. And I think this was all set up by ABC. But this young man rolls up. This is a Muslim American man, and Giamo steps up and begins to help the man fix his tire. And they have this really wonderful conversation. And Giamo is incredibly respectful and wise for his age, and generous with his time, and very helpful. And ABC was so struck by this young man that they put him out there. And again, I thought that this was just a really cool picture of what an honorable young Hispanic man looks like in our world, again, where the culture tends to portray Hispanics in a different light, and usually in a negative light. They're right now, immigration's huge on the news right now, so they portray that side, or they try to portray this idea that they're needy, or they're just looking for our benefits, like welfare and whatnot. And here you have this young man who's talented with his hands, changes the tire, helps this guy out, and in the process is extremely kind and generous and wise. I mean, just a really neat guy. So I was like, wow, look at this guy. He's a young man I'd like to hang around with and be around. So yeah, those are my two stories that I found. And then of course, we could always talk about the website I found a little bit later, but now that you're back.
Yeah. I'm not calling out the hotel's name just yet. I'm gonna give this episode a chance to reconcile itself. But I might have to go down to the front desk and say, hey man, you're gonna have to take that charge off for high speed, because I got a whole audience on YouTube that has watched this thing not be high speed because it was dropping out, and it was, okay, we can all attest to that, right? Tell the truth, y'all. Y'all saw my thing going off, and I paid for high speed. And I need to get high speed because they didn't charge it to my credit card. But I'm gonna have to erase that because that's not working. But I'm back now. I was listening to those stories again. Comment section. And you know what? This is the psychology. We're like little hamsters on a wheel these days. We need to break through this thing. I need to see that comment section blow up today, because what the media does, if you've seen Social Dilemma and a lot of things that are going on these days, is they pit these stories against one another because they've psychologically found out that it is easier to get an audience. It's easier to get momentum for a story if you can get negativity and then people pit it against one another. And so there's the psychology that's going on in our culture today that says if we can outrage you, if we can get you stirred up, if we can get you, plugged into this particular base or this particular way of thinking things, then you're going to really drive the numbers up. And it's unfortunate that our comment section is so slow today. We're talking about positive things that have happened.
Yeah.
Heroes, role models, people that
Right.
are doing magnanimous things in our society. In the comments, beep, 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 crickets.
Yeah.
Where y'all at? Where y'all at?
Yeah. Feeding the whole. I mean, and then the media looks at it and says, "Yeah, see." I mean,
Yep, the media is looking at this. People on YouTube looking at them and say, "Man, they didn't drive any metrics in that show. Nobody wants to hear about positivity. We're just giving the people what they want, Jason.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Just give them what they want. They want negativity. They want us to get on here and bash each other. They want, hey, black people are, hey, white people are, hey, that's what they want."
Yeah. And that's where the church has the opportunity to really separate itself and be that light, because we can lift these people up, and we can see the Imago Dei. We can see how God is made human beings in His image, and therefore we can show compassion. We can show honor. We can show those things. I have no idea where these men are with the Lord, but I can recognize their humanity, their dignity. I can recognize their compassion. I can recognize their generosity, their heroism. These are all things I think are amazing, and I think that are to be modeled. And I think the church now has the opportunity to tell the media and the community, hey, look, we should be lifting up honorable men and women, and we should be outshining the media in that regard. The church should be a place where these kind of men, of course, under the lordship of Christ, are lifted up in our leadership, are lifted up in our activities, so that my kids, my very white Caucasian kids, Midwestern kids, can see firsthand honorable African American men and women and Asian Hispanic men who are doing the right thing, and who are following God's guidelines for life, and who are exalting Christ, and hey, look, these are the people we want to model and be around. So, and these are the people we want to produce in our society, in our communities. This is it.
Drive the conversation a little bit deeper. This is like a stake, man. We're just driving it in the heart of the media. We're like the media vampire slayers up in this episode. We're just driving this into the stake into their hearts, man. We're taking them down. But I had a great conversation with a concerned homeschool mom this last week, who hopefully at some point will be watching this show or go back and reference the show. I'd made mention of the fact these are a lot of the areas that she's been studying and thinking about how as a homeschool mom, she can best or better educate her kids so that they grow up in a world where they're not subject to the perceptions of the media in reference to other ethnicities. And they have the opportunity to flow in some of these conversations in a way that perhaps she didn't have, or, others in her generation just didn't grow up with. And, I know what part of the country she's from. So she's experienced some very overt racism as a part of her upbringing. She's kind of broken away from that, but wants better for her kids, as all of us parents do. And she was asking me about some of these topics that we're talking about, and really wanting to see, where is the help for this kind of education? And I would say, by and large, there's a lot of things like the media just skips over. They don't talk about virtue and things that are out there. But I would say there are some things that are out there that I think people can take advantage of. My next story that I wanted to talk about, if you don't mind, Jason.
Absolutely.
Is a children's book club. It's also in the show notes for today. It's children's books that talk about race. And so it's a series called Let's Talk About Race. I don't know if you guys have seen it before, but it's on YouTube. The whole series is there. And they get people of different ethnicities. I think it's mostly minority, though, from the episodes that I've looked at, that read children's books that help people have conversations about race, which I think is tremendous. Common was on one of them. Are you familiar with Common?
No.
The rapper?
No.
No,
I listen to hip hop. I listen to hip hop music, but I mean,
it's all good. I mean, yeah. So I'm trying to figure out how to get light in this thing.
I know Lecrae. I mean, I know Lecrae.
Yeah, you know Lecrae. Of course, I know Lecrae, and then Lecrae.
I didn't know like Lecrae.
Andy Mineo.
And Lecrae.
And you get half credit for NF.
He's a white rapper, yeah.
That's a joke there.
Yeah.
That's a joke.
Hey, you're in Michigan.
25% for NF.
Yeah.
He's white, and I don't know if he's quite doing Christian. Anyway, that's a whole different topic there.
But I know Lecrae.
Trying to get some light on my face here, but anyway,
I know, like you, I can kind of see you, but I can't, man. Like it feels awkward.
I know this is terrible. If you guys could only see the setup, I've got a guitar, literally a guitar case in front of me. I've got a computer on top of that. I'm looking into the screen that has my phone. Like my computer is somewhere else because now it's got to be tethered to the Ethernet here because of this crummy stream that they gave me, and I paid $4.95 for a day. Okay, anyway, calm down, Erskin. Anyway, what I was saying is Kamaro Brown is the episode that I put on the show notes today, but it surprises me, Jason. It surprises me to no end that people will get on there that watch a black father talking about his son that he's trying to raise and talking about the different ways that he tries to instill values in his life, reading a children's book to a diverse audience, and people will get on there and not like that as a part of their contribution to the metrics of YouTube. Really? What kind of person do you have to be in this discussion? Was it they didn't like the lighting? Was it they didn't like the backdrop that he was in? Like, what would cause a person? And that was what was striking to me, is like there's a 700 or so people who like this, 57, 58 people who don't like this. Like, if you did help me understand the psychology of this, Jason, what kind of troll do you have to be to look at some of the positive values that we're talking about? You know, because people always throw up in my face, you know what? We wouldn't have as many problems as we do if we had black fathers in homes. Now we can do a whole episode on that, but I've heard that before, and that's out there. Okay, so that's in the show notes. That's there. When we do have black fathers who are taking responsibility, who are educating their kids, who are educating the next generation, what kind of troll do you have to be to get on there and not like that?
Yeah, I don't even think you're even part of the discussion at that point. That's not a discussion.
You are not the way forward.
No, that's not. That's just that stirring up of strife. That's that constant wanting to.
I can see if it was one or two people, because there's some people. Obviously, you know this in pastoral ministry. There's some people who don't even like people.
Yeah.
And you realize, oh, they just don't like any people. They don't even like themselves. They're kind of upset that they're a person.
Yeah.
And so you come across those folks in ministry, but at the same time, how are there so many people that are haters in this society?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even have time for that. I mean, I maybe should be a little more patient with it, but I just don't have time for that. That's
Did Jason freeze?
That's not even that's not a discussion. That's not even a discussion. That's just an agenda to continue to tear down anything that you see this in the Bible. Anything that God tries to build up and advance his kingdom, there's always something tearing at it. And I feel like that's the same kind of force, same kind of wickedness. So
my kids just came back in the hotel room, and when I first started doing live streaming, my son, who is very honest with me, he said, "Dad, that was the worst show I think I've ever heard. Why are you doing this?" That was episode 1, not of this season, but last season. It wasn't the way forward. It was the Erskin Music Show. So why are you doing that? He's like, "Your show is horrible."
My goodness.
He just came in, and they're occupying themselves and having fun and not messing up the show by having fun in here and wrestling and doing all the different stuff. But he just came in. He's like, because they're in the stream, they can hear what's going on here, so they're listening to the show, and I can actually kind of see them at the screen where they're at. So kind of responsible parenting. Well, I can't quite see them, but I don't know where they're at right now. But they're listening to the show, and they just came in. They're like, "Dad, your show's actually pretty good." And I'm thinking to myself, this is the worst possible show that you could have because the lighting is all wrong.
Yeah.
I've got a guitar case, a computer. There's another computer over there offset, and I'm trying to do the show note. This is a comedy of errors going on right here. And we're still managing to talk about some positive stories because we believe so much in these positive stories that we have to do this episode no matter what. Poor Ethernet, unjust. See, there's an injustice that's going on here today, Justin. Or Jason, excuse me. Talking about Justin.
Yeah.
Jason, there's an injustice here. I have paid for internet, high-speed internet, charged it to my card. And what are we getting? Nothing.
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
It's the man. The man is getting you down.
The man.
Hey, hang in there.
The man.
Keep it.
Anyway, Scott had some insightful comments.
Man, you are doing acrobatic gymnastics.
So we're a positive story. There we go. We're the positive story.
Positive story. That's good. There is a resource. I think that, that of course we want to end on the church and moving forward, and I think we can get there. But there is
let's do that. Let's turn the corner and let's let this last segment be about the church and how the church and God's people move forward. Let's do it.
Just before we get into that lane, there is something I think that's worth looking at. That Lori Hutchinson I quoted earlier has put out a website called positive.news, and it's devoted to finding stories or putting out stories about she says it's people of color, but when I get on there, there's all kinds of folks on there, right? I mean, it's not just exclusive, but it is predominantly stories about minorities doing good things, and she covers everything from society, culture, economics, technology. I mean, she's putting the gauntlet out there of different things that you're finding that are positive stories about minorities doing good things. And I was really impressed with the reason. I mean, she had the same problem we're having. She'd go to try to find stories of
what's her website?
Positive.news. And you can see it as Black News Matter. I think that might come up as a Google. But I was really impressed with the same problem that we were having is the same problem she was having. And so one of her solutions was to develop content that highlighted the things that African-American men and women and Hispanics and Asians and everybody else in between that everybody is doing. And she's putting content out there. I think it's worthy. I think it's a neat website. And if you're trying to go find stories that are positive and good, this is a resource that can help us out. And I think that helps us move into the lane of the church, because I think the church needs to highlight these stories that we see inside our communities. Hopefully, God willing, you and I are going to be able to go chat with some pastors in April, and we're going to be able to see what they're doing. I think it'd be cool to highlight the work that some of these guys are doing, or to ask them, what do you see in your congregation, people who are doing things, and be able to highlight the good things that are happening there. I think the church needs to do a better job of highlighting these men and these women who are advancing the kingdom of God, right, by making much of Christ in their church community and home. And I think we need to, whether it's in our leadership, whether it's in our congregation, we need to be better at making sure, hey, look, this isn't about ethnicity. This is about honoring honorable people, and all honorable people, right? Not just a certain few. And unfortunately, the church has been biased that way. And I think it would be, I would love, nothing would make me happier than to have a very kingdom-oriented, diverse congregation where we could say, look, I want to highlight the kingdom of God by looking out and seeing heaven, so to speak, a taste of heaven in my congregation.
Right. And this harkens back to something that we've talked about before, is that I've actually had people tell me before, the reason why we don't quote from a lot of Black authors, Black pastors in our sermons and this is preachers, white preachers who are talking to me, is because there aren't a lot of solid theological brothers that are out there. And I have to put hand in face and go, I don't know. One, the ones that are out there who are solid, who are doing great work, they don't get highlighted. So
yeah,
there's a problem there that we need to deal with. But then the ones who are out there, people don't reference them because they have the perception that Black people, and this is, man, this cuts deep, man. Black people are inferior when it comes to speaking theologically, when it comes to addressing ourselves in the culture, being well thought of, well spoken. And, I think that your hint there, your clue that we should be creating content, if you look at the metrics on YouTube, we're just getting buried. There's just tons of content that's being put up every moment on YouTube. Only a small percentage of that is Christian content. And so if you guys notice, we're streaming this to YouTube because we want to get more Christian content, more positive conversations, more things that are out there. You're asking yourself as a creator and you're watching this, you're asking yourself as a minister, how do I impact the world? Well, the world is flowing through some of these social media channels. So your engagement and your involvement here at the way forward is critical, as well as if you're in a position to be able to create content, putting your content out there, putting your stories out there, putting your positivity out there, and really beginning to change the narrative and, dare I say, change the metrics of what people are looking at and looking for when it comes to these discussions.
And I also think that to add to that, that pastors need to intentionally look for minority men who they can come under and learn. I'm just scratching the surface of this. Okay. You and I have this wonderful relationship that's been growing over 20 years, and we're iron sharpens iron. And we've said this before. If people can get involved in our text messaging, you'd see that you and I will go back and forth a little bit. We laugh at each other. We talk.
You say some inappropriate things.
I said, what happens in text stays in text. That kind of thing.
Not inappropriate from a biblically disqualified standpoint.
Yeah,
let me just go ahead and point that out for those of you who are watching from Litchfield or the Baptist Association that he's associated with. He's not unqualified. He just says funny things that in our current culture of critical race theory, you would not be able to get away saying as a white man in society. So I
can safely say that Kelly could look at my text and not look away, nothing like that. So my wife can look at my text and be just fine. She may not understand Erskin and I going at it, but they would be fine. Yeah, that's a good point. But I will tell you this: one of the coolest things that's happening to me in my schooling, as I'm getting my doctorate of educational ministry, is I have connected with a really bright, energetic man. His name is Dr. Kevin Jones. One day we'll have him on the show. An African-American man who I think I could easily come underneath and learn a lot from his experience as an educator, the way he reads his Bible, his passion for the gospel, his passion for families. He is bright. He is articulate. And every time I have a conversation with him, I walk away edified and I walk away learning something new. And he has been so kind to engage me in my ministry context and to try to find solutions to the issues we're dealing with Tending the Vine. I'm looking at this guy thinking, man, this is somebody I want as one of my advisors. This is somebody I want speaking into my life. So much so that we're actually, my daughter's 17. She's looking at colleges. He teaches at Cedarville University, and she's looking at education as
great school.
She's looking at education, and I'm saying, look, you need to look hard at this school, but just simply because this man is there teaching, and you can learn a lot. And I'm realizing if pastors will take that kind of initiative to go and ask the Lord, look, I need an African-American man. I need a minority man in my life to help me understand the worldview. I don't think that's inappropriate to pray for, because that just shows that, hey, look, I can learn from people who are different than I am. I'm telling you, this guy, Dr. Kevin Jones, he's bright, and I learn a lot. So I would say I'd recommend to pastors and leaders in the church. There are men that God has raised up in the church who are Hispanic, who are Asian, who are African American, who are Pacific Islander, all kinds of different people. If you're willing to engage that, he will bring them into your life, and you will learn a great deal.
Amen.
I'm edified.
Amen. That is awesome, brother. Hey,
Yeah.
I just want to make mention of the fact that you put positive.news.com. Wait a minute. Positive News. www.positive.news. And that is correctly applied in the show notes from Aaliyah. Aaliyah, my wonderful artist assistant there. Anything I can do administratively, she can do better. So that's the actual link that's in the show notes for today. For those of you who want to see that and check that out, and we should all be checking that out. But to Jason's point, brother, I want to come back, put another domino on that, and just say for African-American Black pastors who are out there, if you've never been in a mentoring relationship with a white pastor that you could come alongside of, come under even their teaching, their life, then that would be a valuable resource. I think, Jason, if we begin to see that we need these things in our ministry to complete maybe a picture, maybe to be able to do a more profound ministry, we would begin to put more intentionality into some of these relationships. And that's, we did a revival series in Memphis, and that's what we were encouraging pastors to do, to find these relationships with one another and then begin to develop and to grow those relationships so that when the next Rodney King or George Floyd or whatever situation happens, there are these pastors that are able to lock arms in solidarity, and the church is able to remain strong, where the culture just, whoa, everybody's going to blow everything up. So that's an important piece as well that Black pastors also associate. Now, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and they were talking to me about church planting. And, we recently planted a church, a house church. It's really teeny tiny. It's a micro church, but it is a church. And they were asking me about, that whole process and what that's looked like. And I was like, hey, I've already seen what a healthy and strong church is, because I was discipled and mentored and spent 10 years with a pastor who is just tremendous at discipling younger pastors, and just poured into me knowledge and books and experiences. And to the good people in Ferris that may be watching this, man, those years of just foundation and growth, I could not be where I'm at today without you guys. And so, having been with a white pastor, I guess for the sake of the discussion here, and one who was able to instill so many positive and wonderful, helpful things in my ministry, I can see where I have benefited from that. And I can easily see where other brothers, young brothers, would benefit from that kind of relationship with a pastor who is of a different ethnicity and, different requisite skills.
Yeah. No, amen.
And Dave Neutral, your pastor as well. He poured into me. I would be replete. We would run out of time on the show if I just started mentioning names. But yeah, thank you to Dave Neutral as well.
Yeah, Dave has mentored me for 20 some odd years. I don't think we talk every 2 weeks or so. That relationship, I don't know if there's another relationship in my life aside from you and I and a couple others that have had the significance that Dave has had. Every week or two, he's calling, hey, you still hanging in there? You still going?
Mm-hmm.
I'm bouncing things off of. And so that's a show in itself, that the discipleship and mentorship that needs to happen among men.
I remember at your ordination, him talking about you being one step from stupid.
Yeah.
And I've always, that's resonated with me since the moment he said that, because I thought, anything that we do in ministry, even this show, we're one step from stupid.
That's right. He's got
Once we say that, it's hard to unsay that on a live stream.
He's got a lot of one-liners like that, just the years of ministry and wisdom. And so I could not imagine my ministry or life when I got saved at 22, apart from Dave and Tracy and his family, who Heather just had a baby, by the way. I don't know if you know that or not, but his name is Zeppelin. Yeah.
Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Oh,
Zeppelin, like Led Zeppelin. So,
okay.
yeah. So his whole family, and so when Dave when he discipled me, it wasn't just in church. I was in his house. It got to the point where I was at his house every evening at 5 o'clock having dinner, and on Wednesday nights they would have Whoppers because it was church night and it was the easiest to do it. And Whoppers were $1. Literally, I'd walk in, and they would have a Whopper waiting for me at the table.
There you go.
To eat.
The ministry of food, baby.
I got to see
that's another episode.
I got to see the context of Christian life inside of his home, how he handled his wife, how he handled his children, how his wife handled him, the expectations he set, and different things like that. And I look at that context and that was pivotal in me understanding what it means to be a Christian. Can you imagine what the Black community and white community would be like if we just had that kind of relationship with each other in each other's homes, understanding? The coolest conversation I've had this week was with your aunt. Getting an
Marcy, you watching this? Yeah. You made it on the show. Getting not the way you thought.
Getting an understanding of how your family communicates and the dynamic, and is so different than
I can't get a word in edgewise.
Well, here's the thing I was telling Stacy about it. I said, in my family, right? If you were to cut somebody off while they're talking, that's rude. You just ain't gonna do it. So if Marcella were to continue talking for an hour straight, and we could, and we would just say, well, she's got to keep talking. Like when I can't say, because she's good
stuff to say.
Yeah, she's she's my senior for starters, so she's older than I am. So that automatically tells me to be quiet. And then also, you just don't crowd. I was watching the dynamic between you two as I was listening.
And my family is legendary.
Let me cut it. Let me cut it in
some good ways.
Let me cut in here. And I was like, that is so interesting. It was totally appropriate, totally fine, but just very different. And I said to Stacy, I said, that's not. It wasn't rude. It wasn't mean. It wasn't inappropriate. It was totally their dynamic, but it just showed a difference. And can you imagine if we spent more time talking to each other? And the wisdom I gleaned from her, and just kind of listen to her side of things, listen to what she does and her passion. I'm like, man, that's not far off from my passions and my, things I'm looking at.
Yeah.
So more of those conversations, more of the church exalting people who are doing those good things, more of the Marcellas in the church who are willing to begin to do mediation and things like. I'm just thinking, wow, the sky's the limit for us if we go that route.
Yeah,
we go that route.
Well, pretty exciting stuff. We have the opportunity to do perhaps some stuff around mediation and the Christian witness. We've also got, even based on this show, we kind of talk and think at the same time. But wouldn't it be great to have some of our mentors pop on the show for a couple of minutes?
Absolutely, yeah.
We have the technology now. We can have some of these men that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
We might have to help them with the technology. But I can just imagine a group of men, also women, who have contributed to our lives, popping up on the screen and being able to say a little bit and just kind of funneling them through a show where it's just a mentor's celebration and then speaking to the people that are out there. Because you don't get the Way Forward show the way that we have it with, I was doing my thing independently, you were doing your thing independently, and then we just decided, hey, we'll have a show. No, there's a lot that has gone into this show and years of discipleship, mentoring, encouragement, experience that now brings us to this point where I'm not afraid to do a live. Are you afraid to do a live stream?
No,
I'm not afraid. No. You get up on Razor's Edge every week and speak.
Right.
Damocles sword just hanging above your head.
Yep.
People waiting for every word so they can chop you off. I mean, you've lived like that. I've been in situations like that before, and we ain't scared. I mean, it's a conversation about race. It gets people's blood boiling sometimes, but hopefully if you're watching this Way Forward broadcast, the way that we do it is the way that we want to encourage you to do it, because we're trying to point the church to the way forward. And with that, Jason, I'll let you have the last word, then we'll do the outro. We look forward to seeing you guys next week. Let me think, next week. We start our tour in April, so we'll be leading up some things there, but I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to be next week. I have no idea. I'm in Michigan this week. I'm going to be hopefully in a better streamed area in Texas next week. And so the Way Forward show will be coming to you somewhere in the United States for me. And then I guess you'll be in Litchfield, Jason.
Same old, same old. So
hey, somebody's got to be a steady anchor on this show.
That's right.
I'm all over the place with crappy internet streaming. I'm going downstairs after this show is over and talk to the people.
I firmly believe the mission of the church is to joyfully advance the kingdom of God by making much of Jesus in the church community home. That's what I preach every Sunday. One of the ways we make much of Jesus and joyfully advance his kingdom is by lifting up honorable men and women, particularly who are advancing his kingdom, who are from all ethnicities. And we show the world that the gospel is for all tribes, all nations, all tongues. And the church can begin to envision that and live out that vision. We will, I promise you, we will move forward.
You have heard it here.
Amen.
Arnell's going to, and you've actually seen it in the comments, Arnell's about to buy me some ice cream.
That's it.
We all saw that. And so, Arnell, here we go. This has been the Way Forward broadcast. We appreciate you guys and love you guys. Click the subscribe button. That doesn't currently exist, but I know Aaliyah's going to work on a subscribe button for you guys to click. So click the subscribe button, subscribe to this show so that you never miss an episode. We're going to be broadcasting. We're going to go for this is our second season. So we're going to go not just here, but we're going to be on the road together interviewing pastors. There's a lot of cool things that I think are resources that you guys can use that we'll be sharing with you guys, and our advocacy of Project Connect in Nashville. We'll be having special guests that come on from time to time. You won't want to miss an episode. So subscribe to the Way Forward. And if you are just bored and just have extra time, the Erskin Music Show as well. This has been the Way Forward.